Our number 10, the Russian roulette scene from Deerhunter.
I'd like to bring up a discrepancy with the name of the movie, Deerhunter, because I remember it as Deerhunter, so did that guy you just heard, and it's apparently now The Deerhunter. And just so you know that I'm not making this one up, here is some really solid residue from the show Entourage.
If anybody got to use the can, the movie's running almost 4 hours, so do it now. Thank you. This is my fucking Deerhunter with.
But a little bit about it, it was written and directed by Michael Cimino, and it starred Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep, John Savage, and John Cazale. So this movie was unique because it really exposed the deep relationships between the characters, and it wasn't just an action movie which was more of a mechanical representation and also a desensitizer. It really showed the heartfelt emotion of the atrocity that is war. Started by a false flag. Gulf of Tonkin was not the last false flag, let me tell you. I highly recommend watching this movie. It's a real one. And I'm not going to show too many clips of it. I don't want to do too many spoilers. So let's get into the change as I see it. If you remember Deerhunter the way that the narrator here on Cinefix video with 3.5 million views remembers it
from Deerhunter,
you would be right based off of the evidence of residue of it existing that way before the change, which I have a lot to show you. But if you also remember it the way it is now as The Deerhunter, which is on the screen as the narrator says Deerhunter,
from Deerhunter,
it seems like you're also right. Now, what trips me out even more than the residue is when, especially when I'm very confident about a change, seeing the new way so blatantly, as in it was that way for some people.
Michael Cimino for The Deerhunter. Michael Cimino for The Deerhunter.
The Deerhunter. The Deerhunter.
The Deerhunter.
The Deerhunter.
The Deerhunter.
The Deerhunter.
In The Deerhunter.
That's how it is now, okay? So here's residue of how I remember it, and a few people that I've talked to also remember it as being just Deerhunter.
We saw an advance print of Deerhunter. I don't know how many weeks before it was to be released.
David Field is VP of Production at United Artists, and it was in reference to Heaven's Gate, which is the documentary that this clip is pulled from. Another credible source, which isn't just some schmo, Charles Oken, who is Michael Cimino's production manager for 15 years.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, first project, first film, was on schedule, on budget. Deerhunter went over, but there were legitimate reasons.
Michael Daly, who was a producer on Deerhunter, who also did Blade Runner and The Italian Job.
Are there any movies that you worked on that you think may have been unleashed before their time that, you know, today's moviegoers might appreciate more than they did at the time?
Well, I think almost the perfectly timed one was Deerhunter. That was brilliantly timed.
Side note, here's a book called Blade Runners, Deerhunters, and Blowing the Bloody Doors Off, My Life in Cult Movies. This is John Savage. He was an actor in Deerhunter. Something interesting here is, again, a mixture of within the same clip, the way that it was and the way that it is now.
I was in Italy recently, and I saw the Deerhunter on the shelves. And Cacciatore. I was like, chicken cacciatore.
So TMZ man says the Deerhunter in Italy, and then John Savage says, yeah, Cacciatore. And then the TMZ guy goes, yes, Cacciatore. Well, if it was the Deerhunter that John Savage was referring to, he would have said Il Cacciatore. But he didn't. He said Cacciatore, which is reflective of just Deerhunter without the.
I was in Italy recently, and I saw the Deerhunter on the shelves. And Cacciatore. I was like, chicken cacciatore.
Let's see what the cinematographer has to say about this movie's title.
It had to do with the success of Deerhunter.
So those people had prominent roles on Deerhunter, and I think they are incredible evidence, but I was hoping that Michael Cimino, the writer and director, would remember it as Deerhunter rather than the way that it is now, similar to how James Hetfield from Metallica remembered it as Unforgiven rather than The Unforgiven.
What do you think the most personal track is to you? Unforgiven.
But unfortunately, I don't know about unfortunately, but it just is what it is. Michael Cimino referencing his own movie is now the new way.
Many journalists and critics attacked the Deerhunter.
So there's that, in the words of Richie. Let's get real out there real quick and play this Quentin Tarantino interview where he's all over the map with it being Deerhunter or the Deerhunter.
I think Deerhunter is a masterpiece. It was then, now. One of the biggest embarrassments about the way the press attacked Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate was not only did they, I think, very unfairly attack Heaven's Gate on an artistic basis, they used the occasion to re-review The Deerhunter and decided that they didn't like that either. What's very interesting to note, if you think about it, with a bit of history, is The Deerhunter, even big epic as it was probably the first movie that De Niro did during that time when he was God, all right, that he worked with an unknown director. Deerhunter made Michael Cimino a superstar. I think The Deerhunter is one of the hardest things to do on film, is to make an intimate epic. And the film is an epic in every sense of the word. In scope, and in length, and in tension, in emotion, but it's very intimate. It's not about big battle scenes. It's about people from time to time sitting in a living room, or sitting in a car, or standing around a car, or sitting in a bar, or sitting in a Vietnamese prison cell. The Russian roulette sequence is just out and out one of the best pieces of film ever made, ever shot, ever edited, ever performed. That sequence right there is, and not that the whole movie rests on that sequence, but that sequence right there is just one of the most perfectly realized pieces of film ever. It's, you can, anybody can go off about Michael Cimino all they want, but when you get to that sequence, you have to shut up.
Bill Hicks, 25 years ago, and it's from his stand-up special called Revelations. Yes, with an S. God bless.
I'm so sick of arming the world and then sending troops over to destroy the fucking arms. You know what I mean? We keep arming these little countries, then we go and blow the shit out of them. We're like the bullies of the world, We're like Jack Palance in the movie Shane, throwing the pistol at the sheep herder's feet. Pick it up. I don't want to pick it up, mister. You'll shoot me. Pick up the gun. I ain't looking for no trouble, mister. Pick up the gun. You all saw him. He had a gun. Bush, trying to buy votes towards the end of the election. He goes around, selling weapons to everyone, getting that military-industrial complex vote happening for him. Sold 160 fighter jets to Korea, then 240 tanks to Kuwait, and then goes around making speeches why he should be commander-in-chief because we still live in a dangerous world. Thanks to you, you fucker. What are you doing? Last week, Kuwaitis had nothing but rocks. Quit arming the fucking world, man. He armed Iraq. I wondered about that, too. During the Persian Gulf War, those intelligence reports would come out. Iraq, incredible weapons. Incredible weapons. How do you know that? Well, we looked at the receipt.